podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premiere Networks Saturday, February 29th, 2020. This is episode 1673. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast comes to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Yeah, it's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, that's popular. Smartwatches, maybe a little less popular. 8888 Ask Leo is my phone number if you want to talk high-tech. I'd love to talk it with you. 8888 Ask Leo. Used to be high-tech was kind of a side, street and alley in the general world conversation. These days, it's kind of more important, isn't it? As we all carry around supercomputers in our pockets, constantly connected to one another via the internet. Even in our home, we're surrounded by computers. Not just Amazon Echo devices or TV sets with computers built in, but microwave ovens, refrigerators, security systems, everywhere around us. We've got computers. And that's what this show is about, is this changing landscape. Used to be just a show for hobbyists geeking out over there. I got the latest 8086. Actually, it was never like that, but it could have been easily. To a conversation really about the way the world is today. That's really what this show is about. 888-827-5536. For instance, COVID-19, the coronavirus. Huge impact on the world, but also on the technology sphere. Factories in China closing. Conferences called off. Game Developers Conference, big conference which is coming up next month, has been postponed now from next month to summer because nobody wants to travel. I don't blame them. Especially conferences where you get people from all over the world. It seems the risk seems higher. I don't know if it is, but it seems higher. Sony had already bowed out. A number of companies had already bowed out, so I think it makes sense to just say, yeah, maybe we should do this another time. This follows on the heels of the big smartphone conference, Mobile World Congress. That canceled last month. I guess it's still this month, isn't it? Yeah. Amazon is restricting employee travel in the U.S. Google is restricting employee travel to countries where coronavirus has been seen. A Google employee in Switzerland just got diagnosed with COVID-19. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. So, we're all, and of course the stock market plummeted this week. That's kind of a peripheral conversation, but certainly one to pay attention to. Good news from the Federal Communications Commission, which has been slow to regulate the telecommunications industry for some time, partly because the people who run the FCC often come from the telecommunications industry. FCC Chairman Ajit Pai, former Verizon lobbyist. But, sometimes you got to do something. The big cell phone companies got dinged for sharing our location information provided by this smartphone. It's basically a tracking device in your pocket. And they were giving it to bounty hunters and, anybody who could pay, really. I mean, I think they tried to make it be, law enforcement related, but I don't know if they did such a good job. I think they were also selling it to marketing firms. FTC is proposing $200 million in fines, $91 million on T-Mobile, $57 million for AT&T, $48 million for Verizon, and $12 million for Sprint. So good. You know what? Good. It's not a good thing. Follow us around with our phones. Clearview AI, that's the face recognition company that They said for the longest time, "Oh, we're only selling our technology to law enforcement. It's only for law enforcement, nobody else." Well, maybe it seems to be that others are using it, including some commercial entities. The reason we might know this, or we think this is the case, is because Clearview AI, which holds billions and billions of face images scraped from Facebook and other places, Twitter, anywhere you might have posted a picture of yourself, they scraped it and attached any identifying information. Facebook said, knock it off. Clearview AI said, this is public information. They apparently have such a good database. They have a very high, like 99% hit rate. If you give them a picture of somebody, they can say, oh, yeah, that's Leo. Oh, yeah, here's about 20 other pictures of him. Macy's has also used it. See, what happened is Clearview AI, we were only giving this to law enforcement, got hacked. Oopsie. So first of all, there's a couple of issues that come up when someone like this gets hacked. What did they get? Did they get all that biometric information? Clearview says no, but who knows? What they did get is a list of customers, a big, long list of customers. 2,288 law enforcement agencies, companies, and institutions, including the Department of Justice. Okay, fine. 500,000 searches. Okay, fine. But there's some other names in this hacked database of customers. Now, Clearview says, well, you can't trust this. It's illegally obtained. Maybe, and who knows. But BuzzFeed, which has gone through this hacked list, found Walmart, Macy's, and the NBA, as well as ICE and the Justice Department and all those law enforcement agencies in there. Customs and Border Protection, Interpol. And all over the world. They also said, oh, no, we're only looking at customers in the U.S. and Canada because we can trust them. Well, turns out they've been aggressively pursuing clients in law, retail, banking, gaming in Europe, South America, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East. You know, if there's a dollar to be made, I'm not surprised, are you? 3 billion photos in their database from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And it turns out this company's pretty much given it to anybody who can pony up. Why is that a bad thing, you might ask? Well, it's hard to change your face. So, and you know, if you're out in public, always it's been assumed that you're out in public. If somebody recognizes you, you can't stop that. Problem is with technology, cameras, databases, these giant databases, you know, it's not like some cop standing on a street corner looking for bad guys anymore. It's cameras everywhere scanning. Even the London police now, the Metropolitan Police say, yeah, we're going to turn on these cameras 4 hours a day. We're going to scan them looking for bad guys. Hey, you. So they don't sound like that. But they have, I'm sure, a much posher accent. But, you know, they don't sound like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. Nevertheless, that's concerning because it's just like casting a giant fishing net. And one of the problems with face recognition is it does a terrible job on people of color. Lots of false positives because this is something to be aware of with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is only as good as the data that has been used to train it. If you trained a chess-playing computer only with terrible games, no games by grandmasters, it would play a terrible game of chess. It can only learn from what it sees. If, and this apparently is the case often, you train face recognition with a bunch of white people, white men, for instance, it's not going to do as well with people of color or women. And when it doesn't do as well, and especially if the law enforcement community is using it, that could mean, hey, there's a bad guy. Happens all the time. He looks just like the guy who robbed that bank, except he doesn't. But he might get arrested anyway. So, what are you going to do? I mean, I doubt the FCC will swoop in on this one. Twitter is under assault from a hostile. Sometimes they, what do they call these guys? Hostile shareholders, activist investors. That's the term. Activist. A company called Elliott Management has taken a, quote, size, according to Bloomberg, I don't know what sizable stake in Twitter is, but a big chunk of Twitter. And now they're trying to get rid of the CEO. They're not the only ones. Jack Dorsey, who is the CEO of Twitter, is under a lot of attack from everybody. Left, right, center, up, down, for doing a terrible job, for not innovating, for not improving the value of the company. Actually, Dorsey came back as CEO. He was one of the original founders. He came back as CEO in July 2015. Almost 5 years ago. Stock has fallen 6.2%. Their rival social network, Facebook's gone up 121%. So that's the kind of thing investors don't like. They don't like to see that. It's all about money. They don't care. They don't care about anything else. They don't care. Oh, you're a bad citizen, I mean, I have to say my big problem with Twitter is it just makes it possible for people to do drive-bys all the time. Remember when Robin Williams passed away? His poor daughter was assaulted by trolls on Twitter, which did very little to stop it. So much so that she had to actually abandon the platform. And I feel bad for her, but maybe she got a little help because she is a celebrity after all. Her daughter was a celebrity. But there's plenty of other normal people who are bullied, assaulted, trolled all the time on Twitter, and Twitter doesn't care. Free speech! Free speech! Nazis, all sorts of stuff. Free speech! So maybe it's time to replace. I don't know. Maybe it's time to replace them. 8888, ask Leo the phone number. Website, by the way, techguylabs.com. That's free, wide open. Please use it. Everything we talk about goes right there. It's a miracle. Here she is again, the lovable Kimmy Schaffer. Kimmy don't take no Schaffer. She's the unbreakable phone angel.
Happy Leap Day.
Oh, right. This is the 29th.
It's the 29th. We
Happy
only get
Leap
these
Day.
every 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, what is that? If you were born on the 29th, I guess the kid's born today.
Deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard a story on the radio about a set of twins born 11 minutes apart, and one on the 28th and one on the 29th.
Oh, so one of them will be 4 years older than the other.
Right.
Or no, 4 times older than the other. Wow. That was, wasn't that in Gilbert and Sullivan, Pirates of Penzance? That was the whole deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a complicated plot point. Not worth repeating at this point. How are you? Are you sick? You feeling okay? How's your temperature? We're going to put a little temperature probe aimed at your seat from now on.
I am sneezing my head off, but it's just due to all that yellow stuff.
Yeah, me
in the
too.
air.
I think the pollen, yeah.
I just
me too.
washed a bunch of it off my car window this morning.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good. So you know it's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're having an early spring here in Northern California because
I was at the beach on Tuesday.
I know it's warm and nice, and actually, it's all over the country. There's kind of a heat wave. Do you feel like we're like this is the Walking Dead episode -1? Like we're waiting. This is I Am Legion. Like the before picture, like we're just waiting for the apocalypse. No. They say we may all get it.
Doesn't the flu kill more people every year? I
it
don't
does,
know. Maybe
but only because it's more widespread. It turns out the death rate in the flu is, 1/20th out of. I don't want to scare people with coronavirus. But it's not, it's not. No, don't worry about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I think it's prudent not to, travel a lot right now.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be signing up to go to China or Italy anytime soon.
Well, you can't. And the White House has announced new travel restrictions on South Korea, Iran, Italy.
Oh.
Yeah. And as new cases occur, I think more countries will be banned. I think if you had a travels planned in the next couple of months, you might.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't.
Yeah. I am going to St. Louis next week for
Say hi to my friend.
an event. And then we have a trip planned to Germany in June. I hope that's still on. Oy.
Oh, yeah, that's a little close.
Ay, caramba. Ay, 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 ay. So, never mind. Let's not talk about it. You ever hear the phrase whistling past the graveyard? Isn't that a good phrase? It's when you just go.
Oh, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here.
Well, I advise you to not look at your retirement or any investments right now.
I know. That's depressing. I lost $30,000 in one day.
I lost 15.
You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to even think about it. So let's take a call.
Bill in Santa Clarita. He wants to thank you. So let's start on a positive note.
Thank you. Thank you,
line 4.
Kim Schaffer. Hello, Bill.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes, I'd like to thank you. When I was on your show talking about the phone wallet that you had, I've got a lot of interest in it. You remember I told you that my website was bikegripboard.com, and I was at WillieBoy678 when I talked to you.
Yeah.
I'm amazed Kimmy's there. I watched.
Are you just looking for another ad?
No. I've got companies now looking at it because of your show.
Yeah. I don't remember. What is this you're selling? It's a phone wallet.
It's a patent application that has 3 sections that opens up like a regular 3-piece wallet into either a smartphone or a small tablet. Now, it doesn't have a film that's going to scratch, and it can be used by any smart company.
This is not your only invention. I see you have a kind of a kickboard thing too.
It's a bodyboard that's going to make hopefully the best new bodyboard for the beach. It has a handlebar, and I have a bunch.
So, have you been doing this your whole life, inventing things? Are you an inventor?
My first invention was when I was 5 years old. I was in Canoga Park at that elementary school right there on Topanga.
Yeah.
I'm the kid that put the blocks across the jungle gym. And some guy saw it and he stole my idea and he put little grip things that go around the.
I wish we could harness your brain, because that's what we need is more creativity and innovation. Bill, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I'll give you a plug: bikegripboard.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll talk home theater right after this. I don't think he was ever on the show, but that was a clever ploy, a clever ruse. Do you remember it, Kim? I don't remember it.
No, I do not remember.
No, I don't remember the phone wallet. I want to thank you.
Nicely executed.
Because thousands are coming to my website, bikegripboard.com, to buy the phone wallet.
He practiced that one for a while.
I can't knock him. The guy's got what we call Moxie. You got Moxie, kid. Chutzpah. Yeah, no, that's fine. It's fun. It's funny.
Can I get my codependent?
It's time for the singing home theater geek, Scott Wilkinson. He's a contributor at techhive.com. He joins us every week to talk home theater, the big screen TVs, the surround sound. I have to say, with the fears about coronavirus, I remember hearing, I was too young to actually be there, hearing when polio was rampant in the U.S. in the 50s, people didn't go to public swimming pools, they didn't go to movies, they stayed home.
Yeah.
Nowadays, staying home doesn't mean you don't get movie quality entertainment. In fact, I honestly think
it might be better in some cases than going out to the movies.
I'll give you an example. We really wanted to see 1917, and everybody said, "Oh, see it in a Dolby Atmos theater with a big screen. It's an amazing, big
cinematic
picture.
Experience." Yeah,
you really want to see. Now, we didn't get to. I'm sorry to say, we didn't get around to it. So, but I will watch it in our home theater on my 4K HDR with my surround sound system, and I bet I'll get 80% of the experience without the sticky floor and the stale popcorn smell and all of that.
A kid kicking the back of your seat.
Yeah. So, how much am I giving up?
Oh, probably something in that particular case. I mean, there are some cinematic experiences that you really want in a big theater.
That rumbling sound.
Well, if you have a good subwoofer, you'll get that anyway.
Yeah, I do. But actually, I have to fix it because it's so rumbly that my wall shakes and pictures go rattling. To fix that. So, and how about like if I have a 4K HDR screen? I think the picture is going to be probably better than I would see in most theaters, right?
Yes, it will. That's correct. Unless you go to a Dolby Cinema, and I don't know if 1917 was mastered in Dolby Vision HDR for a Dolby Cinema theater. If it was, that's absolutely where I would go see it.
Yeah. If you have the chance, of course.
Yeah. But otherwise, you'll get a better viewing experience at home.
So I agree, and I wanted to see it in the theater since I didn't. It's not the end of the world.
No.
We'll enjoy it at home. And the other problem is, and I bet you there are a lot of people with this, Lisa, we watched a movie last night. We watched Adam Sandler's Uncut Gems, which is actually quite a good movie.
I've heard it's very good
for an Adam Sandler movie, and he's not Adam Sandler in it. He's much better, but it's 2 hours. And she said, "Oh, I hate 2-hour movies." I said, "But that's the normal length.
The normal length of a movie."
And some of them are much longer. But it's kind of better at home because you can pause it, you can get up, you can walk around, you can even watch the second half tomorrow. And I'm sure filmmakers hate that. But for us viewers, it's kind of a better experience. So today we want to talk about 8K.
Yes. So you and I have talked about 8K many times, and now the standard is 4K. And you can't walk into a TV, into a Best Buy or any store and not buy a 4K, essentially, except at the very low end. Now the TV makers are coming out with 8K TVs.
Holy mackerel.
And that's going to come down into the mid-range very soon, I'm sure. The TV makers led the way to 4K, and they're also leading the way to 8K. But the question is, can you really see a difference? Once the resolution gets beyond a certain point, can humans even see the difference?
So what are we looking for? We're looking so that we don't see the pixels, the screen door effect, where you can actually see the dots.
You don't want to be able to see the pixels.
If you can't see the pixels, is there anything more that we're going to get from it?
No, not really. Warner Brothers did a fascinating study. I think I told you last week I was at the Hollywood Professionals Alliance conference in Palm Springs, and one of the presentations was by Warner Brothers. And they did a really interesting study of 4K versus 8K. And I wrote about it on Tech Hive, and I encourage people to go check it out because it was a very involved, very detailed, very carefully done study where they showed 7 clips, like 10-second clips from a variety of things. A couple of clips from Dunkirk. We were speaking of war movies. There's one. Something from A Bug's Life and something from Brave, 2 animated movies. And these clips were actually rendered at 8K. Dunkirk was scanned at 8K from 70-millimeter film.
So the film has that resolution. Yeah,
it does. Yeah. 70-millimeter film does. Yeah. 35-millimeter film, questionable. Probably not. But 70-millimeter film certainly does. And Stacey Spears footage that he shot in 8K on a red digital camera. And they took these clips. They have them in native 8K. They down-converted them to 4K using a industry standard software package called Nuke. And then, interestingly, they had to re-upscale it back up to 8K, but in a very special way so that really it was 4K. They took every pixel in the 4K image and basically duplicated it 4 times. So the pixels were larger, but it all had to be in 8K so the TV, which they showed it on, didn't do HDMI hiccups and all of a sudden display, oh, now I'm looking at 4K, and now I'm looking at 8K.
Go back and forth.
It was a double-blind study. Nobody knew which version was being played. And they brought in, and it was all played on a LG 8K 88-inch OLED TV. Beautiful TV. I reviewed it last year, and it's gorgeous. And then they brought in 139 people from the industry, and they even tested their vision.
Beforehand?
Before the test,
all
yes.
Right.
Yes.
Sure.
So the vast majority had 20/20 or better vision.
Okay.
And they showed them these clips in very random order. And they found, and then they tabulated all the results. So they asked them to say, okay, which one is better, A or B?
So in effect, they're looking at clips in 8K and 4K.
Correct.
On the same TV in sequence in an unknown order.
Correct. Exactly right. And then they scored them, what was A or B slightly better, or much better. Mm-hmm. And then they tabulated the results. And the average over everything, over all participants was what they called marginally slightly better, 8K was. So if slightly better was valued at 1, the maximum value that they got from the average was 0.25. So it was a quarter of slightly better.
In other words, it's just flip a coin. Really. It's not.
Yeah. Another very interesting statistic or data crunching that they did was they showed the number of responses that said 4K was better, 4K is the same as 8K, or 8K is better. And I was amazed at how many people judged 4K better than 8K. And I asked one of the study authors, Michael Zink, he's a VP of technology at Warner Brothers, and he said, well, I think that's mostly because they were guessing, and they couldn't really see the difference. So now the interesting thing was people with 2010 vision, which is better than 2020,
right,
sitting in the front row.
Oh,
that is
really close. Okay.
5 feet from the screen.
Yeah.
They had slightly better results on being able to tell that 8K
but
was. But
not a lot better.
But not a lot better. No.
Wow.
No.
What about the theory, and we've talked about this before, that there's something ineffable that you can't measure, that you just, it feels more real? I guess this proves that's not the case.
That's exactly right. This is a very well-controlled, very well-done study that disproves that hypothesis.
It reminds me of music, where people with golden ears say, I can hear the difference with those special cables or that special turntable or high resolution. And you do an A/B test, it's very hard to do that. You've done that.
Very hard to tell.
Yeah.
Yes. I would love to see more studies done on that. Doing it with cables is very difficult because you have to swap them in and out. It takes some time. Designing a well done study for that is very hard. Well, you can do it with high res audio. Mark Waldrop is doing it on realaudio-hd.com. People can participate.
Oh, good. realaudio-hd.com.
Yeah.
If Golden Eyes Scott Wilkinson can't tell the difference, and golden eared Scott Wilkinson, then I think no one can. Scott, home theater geek, read his article, techhive.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, it's so, what a coincidence, because that's one of the...
I know, that's what
how important is 4K, yeah. So we'll have Scott go, no! Maybe we'll add an echo. No! That's awesome. All right, now you notice I've lost... Lisa wanted the Surface that I was using for that. So I've temporarily, I'll figure out a way to do it, lost the little clock here, but I will give you the clock in the double box. So
okay, thank you. By the way, I made a mistake on Mark Waldrop's website, and I'm sorry about that.
I'll fix it. What is it?
It's Real HD-Audio.
Real HD-Audio. Okay,
yes.
Cool.
realhd-audio.com.
All right.
And he's got you can go there and download a bunch of high-res audio tracks that have been down-converted to CD quality.
Nice.
And labeled, that you don't know which is which, and you listen to them on your system, and you can respond back. And he's gotten like 700 downloads and 200 uploads, 200 responses. So he's doing a good study there. I did it at AVS several years ago with him, and found that people without systems capable of reproducing high-res audio got correct rates at 50%, just what you'd expect from random chance. But people with systems that were capable of high-res reproduction got correct rates at 80%.
Wow.
Now, I only had 50 responses, so it wasn't statistically significant. His is much more so.
Where is it on? I'm looking at the page.
Real HD-audio.
Yeah.
It should be, let's see, where is it?
Formats, Dr. AIX's test.
Yeah, Dr. AIX's test.
No, posts, not tests. Posts.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry. Formats.
Let's see. Where would it be?
Tech Talk. Maybe it's there.
Maybe it's there. I'm sorry I didn't look that up more carefully.
Well, it came off the top of your head because I threw that at you.
It did.
Under a user's guide to better sound, would that be it?
Here it is. Listening to dynamic music, HD audio challenge 2.
Okay.
So under Tech Talk.
It is under Tech Talk.
1, 2, 3, fourth one down.
Okay, I'll put that on our show notes. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, yeah, because the
I don't know why
link
he's calling it listening to dynamic music. It should be listening to high-res music. Can you tell them apart? Yep.
There we go.
That's
P6749.
What?
It's the article link is P equals 6749.
Oh, well, bummer.
Oh, I hate that.
I know.
All right, it's not his fault. It's just his software's fault.
Mm-hmm. And I do encourage people to go read my article on Tech Hive about 8K versus 4K.
I will put that in the Ask the Tech Guy too. That'll drive some traffic.
Great.
So, yeah.
Great. You see it on Tech Hive.
Yes.
It's at the top of the page.
I see it right here. Yeah. Double-blind study by Warner Brothers.
Yep.
So that's good. I'm going to use that in the. That's excellent.
In the Ask the Tech Guy.
Ask the Tech Guy. Yeah.
Good deal.
Excellent.
Hey, we got tweeted out by David Katzmeyer at CNET too, so I'm real happy about that.
Really? For what?
For this article.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, Dunkirk, 2 clips from Dunkirk, Brave and A Bug's Life, the Amazon series called The Tick. Do you remember that?
Yeah, The Tick. Yeah.
The Tick. I never saw it. I'm going to go back and watch it because I really liked
pretty good. Yeah.
The animation. The animated version. I really liked it. It was hilarious. And Stacey Spears' footage is really good.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo the phone number. Micah in Maine. Hello, my friend Micah.
Hello, Leo. So great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you.
Got a question for you. I finally want to get my own domain, and I want to get my own email address because eventually, with all this 5G going on, I'm going to be able to get rid of Spectrum, and won't that be a good
Oh, yeah. People often, it's convenient, it's easy, use their internet service provider's provided email as their email address. But then they're really locked in. Of course, internet service providers want you to be locked in. They don't want you going to a competitor. So if your email address is micah@spectrum.net, great, except you can never change your provider.
Exactly.
So this is wise to plan for this.
Yeah, I figure it's going to be a couple of years. So I went to Hover because that's who you recommend, and I'm probably going to get my domain through them.
Good.
And I know they offer email, but I'm not. I remembered you talked about other email providers other than Hover.
Let me give you the best.
What you think?
The best way to do this is to make a custom domain, a custom email address for yourself. That way, it can be a vanity domain. Micah's email. Or something like that. I have a vanity email domain. There is actually a .email extension now. The only drawback to it is some older, password managers or not managers, but password things on websites don't like that email address. They say, give us a real one. No, that's a real one, you dope. They want .com or .net, I guess. But I think we'll see that less and less over time. But you can get a .com. You can get a .net. You can get whatever you want. You went to Hover. So the key is, first of all, to register a domain name. LaporteFamily.com, for instance. Then I could be Leo@LaporteFamily.com. That's a custom address. The key here is the place you register the domain name, and in your case it's Hover, but wherever you go to do that, Google has domains. There's lots of places you can go to get domains. Does not have to host the email. What you're going to do is have anything that comes to Micah@mymail.com be redirected to another email provider, which for now can be Spectrum. There's no reason you couldn't. You can redirect it to any email provider. You may want to move somewhere else. It could be Gmail. That's free. I mentioned Fastmail. I love Fastmail. You can use Fastmail. Actually, you can do this all with Fastmail, but I generally don't recommend that you get the domain from the same place providing the email. That's still coupling these two together, right? What you'd like to do is completely decouple your email address from whoever's serving the email or hosting it or receiving it. And you can do that because the way the host names work, you can say it's kind of complicated for me to describe it on the radio, but there's a way to change the settings in a host name to say, when mail comes, send it here. And most companies will provide that for free. Some provide, Hover, for instance, charges $5 a year, which is close to free. But in many cases, you can, if you know what you're doing, you just change what's called the MX record on the domain settings to point to your server, your new email server, and it's done. Fastmail will give you instructions on how to do that. It's not complicated. So what you can do is sign up for an email account. Let's say you're going to use Gmail because that's free. You're going to sign up for a domain name that's your whatever vanity name you want. That's going to be yours for life, by the way. And that's the beauty of this. Let's say Google goes out of business, just blows up, Gmail's gone. Doesn't matter because you can have your email go anywhere you want. You just change a setting in your name, your domain name. So let's say you got Micah's Mail. You got Micah at micahsmail.com. You can get that from Hover. You can get that anywhere. It can be anything you want. I have a variety of domain names. Some have to do with email, some don't. It's actually a good idea. Well, let me first tell you how to do this, and I'll talk about some of the things you might look for. So once you set up that domain name, you'll then check the documentation provided by the hosting company like Hover or Google Domains or GoDaddy or whoever it is you did this with about email. GoDaddy, as an example, will say, we'd like to host your email. We'd like to be your email provider. I wouldn't do that. I would go with somebody whose only business is email. And there are lots of choices out there. I use Fastmail. But what you're going to look for on GoDaddy or Hover or Google Domains is the instructions for how to point your domain name to that email server. In some cases, it will be as complicated, as I said, as changing the MX record. In some cases, they will do it for you for $5 a year. That's Hover. In any event, it's now forwarding. And so you can change that forwarding at any time. So you don't really care where your email is stored. Your people sending you email don't have to know that. They're going to be sending to the custom domain that you set up, and that can be yours for life. I've had a custom domain, leoville.com, since the 90s, and mail going to that does not in fact go to leoville.com. There's no server there. It gets bounced off over to a Fastmail. So that's what I would recommend. It's a little complicated. I do think it's worth doing. You can do Gmail with a custom domain name. You can do any mail server with a custom domain name. Because what you're going to end up doing, let's say you did it at Hover, you're going to end up saying, well, my public domain name, micahsemail.com, points over to Micah127934 at gmail.com. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to do any settings at Gmail or anything like that. The mail will go to that. What's interesting is Gmail will preserve the original address. Now, I said I would say some other things you might want to look for. I like the ability to create an infinite number of addresses. So a good email company will allow you to do that. You can have anything that goes to micahsemail.com all go to this Fastmail, for instance. That's where I do it. And Fastmail, you can tell Fastmail when you set it up, and by the way, no matter what is before the @ sign, I want it to go to this mailbox. Then you can run filters that say, well, so when I sign up for an account with Verizon, for instance, I gave them the email address Verizon at laportefamily.com. Verizon at laportefamily.com. Anything that goes to laportefamily.com goes to Fastmail. And I have a rule at Fastmail that says if it's Verizon, put it in the Verizon folder. So this gives you a couple of benefits. One is better filtering, so your inbox isn't jammed with everything. You go to the Verizon folder to see any communications from Verizon, for instance. It also tells you if Verizon ever sells my email address, because if I started getting advertisements for blankets at Verizon at laportefamily.com, then I know they sold my address to some blanket company. So all of that's fairly useful. So you're going to look for an email provider that let you use ideally an infinite number of addresses. Fastmail will do that. And it's a little, I have to say this is a little tricky. If it all sounds too complicated, then go to GoDaddy or you went to Hover and use their email service. And then it's painless. You're paying for it, but it's painless. Does that all make sense, Micah? I know that's kind of complicated.
It does make sense, and Fastmail was what I wanted to know about because that's what I'm going to look into.
I love Fastmail. What you can do is you can get an account at Hover, but have Fastmail handle the domain name resolution. And by doing that, your email will come from micahsemail.com and will be Fastmail. They're such a good provider. They do email authentication using DKIM and SPF and DMARC, and that will automatically be provided. You can set that up as well, and all of that is very powerful. It does take, I have to say, this is a black diamond tip. This is for your advanced skiers, but it does, so it takes a little effort, but it is well worth it. And the nice thing is once you've set it up, you only give out, from now on, there's only one email address anybody's ever going to get. And I can have it go to anywhere I want. I have much more control. This is really important to have that kind of control. Thank you, Mike. It's a good question. I realize it's a little bit of a tricky subject. I think I might have to do a special. We have a show called Ask the Tech Guy where I take a question like this and spend more time on it with diagrams and illustrations, and I think this would be a good one. So we'll put that in the Ask the Tech Guy bin for emails to be answered soon. Thank you, Micah. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's take a break. News at the top of the hour. Then more of your calls right after this. Mr. Scott Wilkinson, I give you the floor, sir.
Why, thank you so very much.
My colleague from Southern California.
Hi. So, Mike Heiss in the chat room wasn't at HPA this year. Mike, really sorry that you weren't there because it was my first year. Would love to have shared it with you. I know you've been for many years. But in any event, he was wondering about displaying 4K on an 8K TV. And I kind of rushed through this in the segment on the radio show, but they went to great lengths to take the 8K native footage, put it down to 4K using a very sophisticated downsampling algorithm, much better than any consumer would be able to get, and then upscale that back again very carefully. And I tried to explain this and probably didn't get through. Basically, they used one of the nuke filters called cubic. And what that means is it took every pixel in the 4K image and duplicated it 4 times, made basically 1 pixel out of this 1 pixel, made 4 pixels that were the same, roughly. So the pixels were larger, which is what you'd expect on a 4K TV of the same size as the 8K TV that they were looking at. If they had used 2 different TVs of different size so that the pixel density was the same, it would have been obvious which was which. And they really wanted to avoid any kind of bias. And I think they did a great job at it. So there were a couple reasons for doing that. One is they could play both 4K and 8K on the same screen. They could play 4K and 8K. As far as the TV was concerned, it was getting 8K all the time. And it wouldn't hiccup. Normally, if you change resolutions by HDMI, the TV will hiccup. And it may very well display in the upper corner, I'm now getting 4K. I'm now getting 8K. And so that would have been a dead giveaway and would have invalidated the test. So I think they did a very good job of being able to compare 4K and 8K completely without revealing which was which. We did the same thing with the AVS test I did with Mark Waldrop with high resolution audio. We had some 4K, thinking video here. We had some of his recordings at 2496. We downscaled them to 1644.1 CD quality. We level matched those two files. And then we upscaled the 1644.1 back up to 2496, so that again, basically it was CD quality within a 2496 container. Likewise, on this Warner Brothers test, it was 4K within an 8K container, so that they would play seamlessly one after the other, and you wouldn't be able to tell which was which, other than hopefully by your ears, or in the case of Warner Brothers, by your eyes. So I'm very convinced that they did an excellent job of making this test as fair as possible. Now, one of the folks at the HPA retreat came up with a great idea, which would have been to do the same test and basically have two projectors projecting onto the same screen, one of which would be a 4K projector, and these would have to be native 4K, and a native 8K projector. And those do exist. They're very expensive. Digital Projection makes one. But it's probably 6 or 7 figures. It's super expensive. But if you had such a system, you could play native 4K on the 4K projector and native 8K on the 8K projector, and you just need to block one of them or the other from hitting the screen and compare them that way. I'm not sure that could be double blind, because the person doing the blocking and unblocking of which projector to see would know which is which. So unless you could automate which projector was on the screen and which projector was blocked, and you could automate that in some random way that no one would know which was which, you couldn't rightly call it double blind. They did that with this test. They used a computer to completely randomize which clips were being shown, 4K or 8K. And so no one, including the test administrators, knew which was which. That's truly double blind. So anyway, it was a very interesting study that I felt deserved some exposure, and I'm really glad to have been able to give it that. Let's see. Oh, and they also, Mike Heiss, talking about a control, as you'll read in the article, they played each clip in 3 sequences, not sequential sequences. I didn't write that in the article. I didn't know quite how to do it. But basically, they had 3 sequences in which they randomly assigned the 4K and 8K versions the labels A and B. And then they played A, B, and then you scored in this scoring sheet. Then they went to another clip and they did the same thing. And each clip was done like that 3 times, non-sequentially. So you'd see clip 1, you'd see Brave, and then you'd see Dunkirk, and then you'd see Stacy's footage, and then you'd see Dunkirk again, and so on and so on. And one of those three sequences of each clip was 4K every time. So even though you saw A, B, they were identical. They were all 4K. So this was what was called a control group, which they did to achieve what they called more robust statistics. And I think that was another excellent idea on their part. I'd love to run an audio comparison, double-blind comparison in the same way. I think their methodology was excellent. And so doing the same thing with a group of people in a room with 2496 and 1644.1 on a system capable of reproducing higher than 20 kilohertz and greater than 96 decibel dynamic range in a room in which you could detect greater than 96 dB dynamic range, which isn't easy. It'd almost have to be in an anechoic chamber, not quite, but almost. So you would need very stringent circumstances, a very carefully controlled environment in order to make this a valid test. But I'd love to do it nonetheless. Key Key 43. If I could do it, I can be one of your test dummies. Yes. Well, if I did this test, which I doubt because it's too difficult, but if I did, I'd invite you all along.
All right, Scotty, have a wonderful rest of your life. No, I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right. It's not like a yearbook. Have a good life.
Yeah. No, we're good. See you next week.
See ya. Bye-bye. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. I feel like I didn't really do a very good job explaining how to forward your email. It's kind of a complicated thing, isn't it? In general, the highlights, instead of using your ISP's domain name, leo@comcast.net, for your email address. The problem with that is, you can't change ISPs. And every time you go to, let's say you move and you have to use a different internet service provider, suddenly your email address changes. You got to tell everybody. It's just a pain. But that's how we all started. I mean, my first email address was Leo Laporte at CRL.com, I think, because my internet service provider was CRL. Long gone. The Couch Research Labs, long gone. But that was many moons ago. But I learned pretty quickly, and I think it was in 95 or 96, I bought the domain name leoville.com. I wanted leo.com, but the Bank of Canada had it. I wanted Laporte.com. Somebody else had that. So I got leoville.com. I'm kind of embarrassed by it now. I mean, that was a long time ago. I was young and I needed the money. But it is my domain name, and that's the email that's been on my business cards. That's the email I've been giving out for 25 years now. The thing is, it's goes to different places over those years. It's gone to different places, but I've never had to tell anybody anything of that. They just know, send me an address, email at leoville.com, and I'll get it. Over time, what's happened is, I don't know who I was with at first, but for a long time I was with Google's Gmail. And all I did was I changed the settings at leoville.com so that when you get email, send it to the Gmail address. And I did that because Google had the best anti-spam filtering. They still do, and they also have the best anti-malware filters. They're very good at filtering out ransomware, for instance. If you use Gmail, you're very unlikely to get an email attachment that's malicious. They just announced they're going to start using AI because bad guys have realized Google's filtering out their email attachments, so they're starting to modify them slightly, trying to trick Google, and so Google's going to use AI to detect these. They change so rapidly. We'll see how well they do. Right now, they say they're getting 80% of malicious attachments. So Gmail's a good choice, and it's free. But some people don't like the idea that Google might be reading your email or whatever. So there are services you can pay for. Maybe you like the encrypted email services at Proton Mail or Tutanota. Maybe my personal favorite is Fastmail because it's not free. In fact, it's a little expensive, but not a lot. I just bought another 3 years for a couple $100, I think. So it's not horribly expensive. But I like them because they have very capable email servers with lots of features. And so when I went from Gmail to Fastmail, it was simple. It was a setting. At leoville.com, I said, instead of forwarding it to gmail.com, forward it to this address at fastmail.com. That's all. The mail continued, no problem. And in most cases, if you move providers, there is a way to get the email on the old server to the new server. That's something to keep in mind, especially if you're on an internet service provider. They may not have a way to do that. Gmail does, Fastmail does. You're looking for an email provider that'll give you the ability to move all your previous emails too, because you'd like to take them with you, right? 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. I hope that helps. I realize I did such a terrible job. I made it much more confusing. Well, it is, unfortunately. Once you get to the details, it gets more confusing. But the 30,000-foot level is probably enough. More appropriate for this show. Renisha is in Los Angeles. Our next call. Hi, Renisha.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for hanging on.
Yeah, so my question is, I recently purchased a EcoTank printer.
From our fine sponsor, Epson, yes.
Yes. So my issue that I have with the printer is when I print landscape, it doesn't dry quick enough, so it's dragging the ink across the word.
How awful.
Yeah, so how do I prevent that from happening?
Get different paper.
Okay, different paper. So because what I'm printing on, it's a program for my wedding, and it's
how nice. Oh, that's why. Yeah, because the cardstock it's not absorbing into the cardstock.
Got it. Okay.
So the ink, an all inkjet printers, ink has to be wet to flow. It's going through these nozzles. But they have a fast-drying ink, but a lot of it is dependent on the paper and whether the paper absorbs the ink and things like that. And so I think that's the issue. And not only that, I think the other problem is cardstock is thick.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so the head is closer to the cardstock. It probably wouldn't drag if you were using a thinner paper. You might look for a thinner cardstock. That might work just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Epson does have, and you might look at the settings in your print driver, because Epson does have settings for different kinds of paper, and they may have, I just don't know, a setting that says, look, it's thick cardstock, and they might actually be able to move the head up or do something to make that better, maybe pause between lines. But that makes sense. You're printing on a thicker cardstock. The ink isn't drying as fast, but also, in fact, this may be the real problem. The head is closer to the paper because the cardstock's thick, so it might be dragging across the ink. Check the print settings to see if you can change it to a different kind of paper. And congratulations, Renisha. That's awesome. Bill in La Jolla, California. Hi, Bill. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Oh, hi there. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Yes, I've been trying to call you for a couple of weeks, and I certainly appreciate your show.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling.
Well, good. I have an Inspiron Dell computer running under Windows 10.
Yep.
And I use SyncToy to back up my data, and I do that twice a week, and I put one copy in the vault.
Good man.
Feel pretty safe there.
Yep.
But how do I back up the programs?
Generally, you don't want to. And the reason is backing up the program is more than just getting the exe program file. On Windows, programs spew data all over the hard drive. There's DLLs in the Windows directory. There's registry changes. There's so much going on that very few backup programs will back up the programs themselves. And almost always, my recommendation, if you're restoring from a backup, is to reinstall Windows from scratch and reinstall the applications from scratch. Okay, having said that, I will tell you there is a kind of backup that will back up your entire installation, including Windows itself and the programs itself. That's called an image backup.
Okay.
And there are lots of companies that make image backups. That would be a separate kind of backup. In fact, I often say that that's a good backup to use in conjunction with a synchronizing backup like SyncToy, because you're going to make, when you first install Windows, you're going to make an image. When you get all the apps and all the settings just right, you're going to make an image. It's like freeze-drying that entire installation into one file, which you can then quickly restore. But it only goes back to that point in time. So any changes you make after that, any files you add, any settings you change, you'll have to either do another entire image backup or rely on SyncToy. So what I do is I do an image backup from time to time, mostly at the beginning.
3 months, maybe?
Yeah, and then SyncToy gets the changes. And that way, when you do restore the image, you'll go back to that point in time 3 months ago, but you can use SyncToy or what you've synced to restore anything that's changed since. Ease US makes a very good free image backup. EASEUS.com. I use something called Drive Snapshot, which is from drivesnapshot.de. There's also from Terabyte, I think it's Terabyte Computing, there is a program called Disk Imager that is also, that's what my friend Steve recommends and uses. So there's a number of very good choices. Actually, it's Terabyte Drive Image Backup. And that's from terabyteunlimited.com. That's probably the easiest. None of those are free, by the way, except for Ease US. But it's worth it for $40. This is something you're going to use all the time. A good one will have a number of features like a little program that because one of the problems with it, if you put a new hard drive in, do you have to install Windows and Drive Image to restore your image? That would be a pain. So almost all of these will have a little program you can put on a disk or a USB key that you can then restore the image. So you don't have to reinstall Windows before you can restore your Windows, which, if you think about it, would be kind of nutty. So I guess Image for Windows, that's the one Steve Gibson recommends. By the way, it's Tera, T-E-R-A, 1R, B-Y-T-E, unlimited.com. We'll put a link in the show notes. TechGuyLabs.com. Good question. Good question. And you'll see when we talk about iDrive and other cloud backups, they won't back up programs or Windows itself either. It's just too hard to do that. In order to do that properly, you need to back up everything, the whole drive. And that's a different matter than a cloud backup. I also think it's better, if you can, to reinstall applications. Now, that used to be more of a pain when you had a separate serial number you had to store and a CD or a DVD you had to store and all of that. But nowadays, almost everything you installs from the cloud. It's downloaded, so it's not such a big deal. Get a copy. If I had to take the hard drive out of my computer right now, put a blank one in there, you can reinstall Windows pretty quickly. Microsoft, once you've installed Windows 10 on any machine, says, okay, you don't need a serial number. And then use the Windows Store and various websites to restore your apps. That's pretty quick. In fact, there's a really nice program I use called Chocolatey. People have in the past used Ninite, N-I-I-N-I-T-E, Ninite, and one I, N-I-N-I-T-E, to install multiple apps at once. I like Chocolatey a little better. That's at CHOCOLATEY.org. It's free. And it is one program that you can run a script to reinstall all your programs, which makes it very simple to set up a new install of Windows. I've used that many times. I'll put links to both of those also in the show notes. Okay, enough show notes. Let's take a break. Our travel guru, Johnny Jet's 10 minutes away. More of your calls coming up to 8888 Ask Leah. Oh, I didn't see that. iDrive will also do imaging. I did not know that. How about that? That's a nice feature. I love it that the song says it was 20 years ago today Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play, but 2 years ago they did the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper. Came out in 1967. I guess that was 3 years ago. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Johnny Jet, our travel guy, coming up. I guess we're going to have to talk about restrictions on travel due to the coronavirus. Chat room was talking about ordering technology. It's a good point. I didn't think about this, but because so many plants are shut down, and I think we're going to see more shutdowns rather than fewer, it probably will be hard to get new computer gear. Get harder and harder to get it. Might be if you know you're going to need a new computer in the next 6 months, might be the time to get it. I ordered a new Dell XPS 13 on the 17th. They just shipped it, I think today. So I guess I'll get that one. But if you waited another few weeks, I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't be able to get the parts. I think they assemble those in the U.S., but they might not be able to get the parts to ship them to you. It's shipping from City of Industry. It's not shipping from Shenzhen. You order new Apple gear, it's almost always shipping from China. That's going to be hard to get. Apple's expected in 1 month, March 31st, to announce new iPhones. Do you remember the iPhone SE? I know many of you use them because they're smaller. They're iPhone 5 sized. And they have modern guts, so you can use some modern operating systems and so forth. A lot of people love that iPhone SE. It was really a big bestseller. It's been a few years, though, so it's expected Apple will announce a new $400 iPhone. We don't know what they'll call it. The rumors are, will it be bigger? It's not going to be as small as the SE. It'll be iPhone 6S size, I think is what they're saying. But it'll have the modern A13 chip in it, the one that comes with modern iPhone 11. So that's, for a lot of people, that's something, $400, well worth waiting for. But if they announce it March 31st, as rumored, will they be able to ship it? Those factories have been shut down for weeks and probably will stay shut down for some time to come. I don't know. Something to keep in mind. Maybe if you, I don't know. I just don't know what the answer is. No one does. Because among other things, the rumors coming out of China is it's contained and going away. So maybe the factories will reopen. Maybe everything will be fine. We just don't know, do we? John in Long Beach, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, John.
Hey, Leo. I'm a retired accountant that has a friend with a startup, and he would like me to set up the financial end of his business. So what I'm looking for is someone who can remotely host, a business that can remotely host the well-known small business software that he uses, and also maybe would have some file space that, where I could create files like maybe, here's your Excel of your sales projections, et cetera, and could be accessed from several different locations. Their current IT infrastructure at the small businesses, they have Wi-Fi, and everybody's got a laptop. Typical Millennium group.
Do they use Windows?
Yeah, they will if I'm involved.
Because a lot of startups, you see a lot of glowing Apple logos.
Yeah.
I think for the business side, I'll be honest, what we do is QuickBooks, which is online.
Well, I see that. Yeah, I looked into that, but QuickBooks is actually the financial software I'd recommend, but they want the multi-user version, and they need inventory, and that's not available in the online version.
Oh, interesting. So they want to use QuickBooks locally.
Yeah, but I mean, they hang it on whoever would control this server. They have the multi-user version, so they can get up to 3. They have up to 3 licenses to get in there, and but they need be able to access it from anywhere. And the big bonus would be if I could access it from home rather than have to traipse into the office.
I think my best recommendation is going to be Microsoft's own Azure service. I feel like that's going to be your best place to do all of that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's, there are third parties that do it, but I think for one thing, you can trust Microsoft, right?
Yeah, well, I want backups and reasonable security. So, that sounds like... I think
I would unhesitatingly recommend looking at Azure, and they have, all of their stuff is hosted, Exchange, SharePoint. I'm pretty sure you can run Windows software on Azure. I actually have never even thought of doing that, but I'm pretty sure you could.
Most of the software is already on the PC. It'd be like hanging an Excel file.
Yeah, well, that for sure. Excel, for instance, will save to OneDrive, which is Microsoft's cloud service, by default. Yeah. That'll be its default, so it doesn't even save to the local hard drive. But you could also run virtual machines of Windows on Azure if you decided to have everything in the cloud. Then all they'd really need is, a thin client on their end to access all of that. So it's up to you, and it depends on, of course, their speed. But I would say Azure is secure, and that's a strong argument for it.
Yeah, for financial data especially. Okay.
Yeah. We use QuickBooks because of that, but inventory, I guess that would be an issue. Yeah. I never thought of that. We don't have any inventory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have a bunch. These guys have a bunch of inventory that they need to, and that would be a big part of why you even use financial software.
This is fun for you, isn't it? It's kind of nice to come out of retirement and do something modern and new.
I was working in a large accounting department in a manufacturer with this whole IT structure that dictated how everything was done, no matter how much I thought could be done better.
Yeah, you could do it better. Yeah, Azure is for sure the modern way to do this.
I will take a look at that. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling. I've been everywhere, man. He's traveling all over the place. He is... not Johnny Cash, but Johnny Jetstream. I'm going to call you that from now on. He was Johnny Jet Ski because he was an avid jet skier, and then he decided travel was where he had to be, and now he's our travel guru. Johnny Jet tells us how to travel better with technology every week. Hi, Johnny. You're staying home Leo. For the foreseeable future, I'm going to guess.
I'm staying home for a few weeks.
We're going to St. Louis tomorrow, Wednesday.
Are you?
Yeah, we have a client out there, and we have an event scheduled with him, and you
flying American?
Yeah,
Southwest?
No, Southwest.
Okay. So
we were, last week there was a conference in San Francisco. RSA, IBM, a platinum sponsor, decided not to send any employees because everybody's worried about the coronavirus. But we were hosting a party with our sponsor, LastPass, on Wednesday night, and I didn't feel like I could bow out of that, so I went to a party with people who are at a conference with people all over the world, and then I'm going to fly to St. Louis on an airplane. Who knows who's on that airplane? But I think the prudent thing to do, if you can avoid it, right, would be to not go anywhere for a while till we know what's going on.
I don't know if that's the right answer. I mean, especially if you have little kids at home or you're elderly or you're around people who are sick.
If you're over 60, diabetic, have high blood pressure, heart problems, or respiratory problems, absolutely not. Don't go.
I read a stat.
Don't go.
The fatality rate for like people in their 80s was like 15%. For their 70s, it was 8 or 9%. So it's definitely targeting more of the older people and people who have respiratory problems. But again, I'm not a doctor,
we're not experts. We're not medical experts. But from a point of view of the travel industry is already starting to hurt, right?
Oh my God, it's getting crushed. And actually, the largest travel conference was taking place next week in Berlin, ITB Berlin, which I've been many times. They just canceled. And I had a feeling they were going to, but that's big time if they were going to do it. 180 countries go, over 10,000 people. And it is a huge thing for them to cancel. Every time I hear the news, it makes me think, like, what's going on? Do people know stuff that we don't know? It's because, you watch some news programs and they say it's just the flu is worse. So
that's actually not. We now know that's not the case.
Right.
The death rate is 2% of coronaviruses, which is 10 times higher than the flu was. So the only reason more people die from the flu is more people get it, and that's just because it's been around longer. Who knows what's going to happen with coronavirus? And incidentally, I know the president said, "Oh, don't worry, because this summer it's going to get hot and the virus will go away." Yeah. And now experts are saying, "Well, it might go away, but it'll probably be back next fall."
Well, I don't know if that's true anyway, because look at Singapore. Singapore
it's pretty hot there.
Yeah,
it's always 80 degrees.
It's always like 90 degrees.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't know about that.
But honestly, I think it would be prudent not to travel unless you had to. Now, I have to. I wish we didn't have to, but I'm going to take precautions. You've always told me this. Wipe down all the surfaces and leave it wet for 30 seconds with a disinfectant. I use some hospital wipes from Clorox that are designed to handle these kinds of viruses. If you can still find them in the stores, but I'm going to bring some on the plane, wipe that down. Wash your hands frequently. That's the number one thing you could do for 20 seconds with soap. Hand sanitizer helps, but washing your hands is the best. Apparently, wearing a mask if you're healthy is not necessary.
True. So when I flew last week,
but I'm not gonna. I want to wear a mask on the plane.
No, you don't need a mask.
All right, I'm gonna wipe everything down.
Unless you're sick, wipe it down before you eat. I mean, don't touch your hands. Don't touch your face with your hands. But
easier said than done. By the way, everybody touches their face all the time, twice a minute in most cases.
They do, but I mean, you have to make a conscious effort. And also, I notice, when people are using the bathroom, I was sitting in the first row the other day, and they do what I do, and I thought I was the only one that did it because I am kind of a germaphobe, where I would take a tissue or a paper towel and open the door handle.
You should always do that
after I wash my hands.
Always do that. That door handle. You wash your hands and you touch the door handle. What have you done? Nothing.
Yeah.
I carry a handkerchief with me at all times, and I dry my hands on my handkerchief to save paper, and then I open the door with it, and I'm gonna just. I don't know what to do, but I just,
Everyone just needs to calm down, number one. Well, but the people are starting to panic because my wife has been reading a lot of stuff, and she just stocked up on non-perishable things. And I, you know what? We live in California. I think it's a good idea because there could be an earthquake.
Don't do a run on the market, but get a few. Get some bags of beans and some rice and stuff, and yeah.
But the guy who delivered it today said the number one thing that people are buying are those Clorox wipes. He goes, they're out. We can't get them anywhere.
Yeah.
And I just happened to buy a whole bunch a couple weeks ago at Costco just because I thought we were running low. So my point is, use the precautions. Do stock up on some non-perishable things.
We have a pantry, so I keep I have a 40-pound bag of corn in my pantry. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but if I had to make tortillas for the next 2 weeks, I guess I could.
and don't travel unless you have to if you're going for work. And actually, the State Department has a pretty good map. It's called travelmaps.state.gov.
Travelmaps.state.gov.
So what this one does, there's a few different things on this one. This one, it shows you what the travel advisories are, but it will also show you where their embassies are. So if you're out of the country and, the blank hits the fan, you know where to go to at least get some help, or if you lost your passport or if it's gotten stolen, which unfortunately has happened to my wife once when we were traveling. We went to the Canadian embassy since she's Canadian, but this is where you need to go if something happens. But before you go, do your research, find out. I was just reading online during the commercial saying that Trump is thinking about closing the Mexican border.
Oh, I think he's been thinking about that for years.
Well, that's true. But he just had a press conference, I guess, an hour ago. And
travel to the countries where coronavirus has broken out has been curtailed. I honestly think that the problem is we don't know much, do we? We just don't know. We don't know if it's going to turn into the worst thing ever. We just don't know.
Yeah. I have a lot of people who are traveling in a few weeks, and like myself, and I say, just give it time. Don't cancel anything. Just wait and see what happens the next couple of weeks. If you're traveling,
would you go on a cruise ship tomorrow?
Yeah, I think
my fear is not the cruise ship not being able to get off.
Well, that is a fair. And that's my next trip. I'm going on that Richard Branson's cruise.
You're going on the new Virgin cruise ship, huh? The Scarlet Lady.
So, but I would definitely be washing my hands. I wouldn't be going through the buffet without, using hand sanitizer before and after I touch utensils and things like that.
The irony is there are no confirmed cases in Mexico. So I think the president is just making stuff up at this point.
I can't comment on that because I didn't watch the press conference, but I just
what?
saw something on, it's just
maybe Mexico should close the border from us since we do have confirmed cases in the U.S.
And I was actually thinking that if they heard that, they're probably jumping up and down saying that's great.
Well, Mexico does have. I apologize. Mexico does have 3 cases.
I did read 3.
Returnees from Italy. They were at a conference. These conferences are the scary things, aren't they?
Well, and that's why they canceled that ITB conference. And I think there's more.
The game developers conference was just canceled or put off till the summer. I think that's Mobile World Congress was canceled. I have a feeling we're going to see more of that as well because those are breeding grounds.
TBEX is in Sicily, Italy in 2 weeks.
No, it isn't.
And that is not canceled.
No, it isn't.
It isn't. Rick, and I keep thinking that it's going to be canceled, but he says it's not going to be. They say it's not going to be canceled, but I just don't see it happening.
There's a new phrase I've been using a lot: whistling past the graveyard, and that won't keep you from getting sick. I'm just going to say. I don't know.
The conferences where people are coming from around the world are a little bit scary.
I would put off whatever travel you can. And as I said, I'm doing it. I would put it off.
This is the time they get the deals. The deals are now.
No, don't get deals. Stay home.
Best time to travel.
JohnnyJet.com. He's writing all about it right there. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Get the deals. You'll save money. And so what if you have a 1 in 50 chance of dying? Big deal. If you're saving $100,
it's not that high.
It is. It's 2%. It's 1 in 50.
Again, it's mostly the elder and people who are sick.
So, except for the 30-year-old doctor who discovered it.
That is true. That does freak me out. So
I know I shouldn't freak you out because you're already freaked out.
But who knows what really happened to him? And I don't know. Can you believe everything that's coming out of China?
Can you believe anything that's coming out of the U.S.? No.
That is true too. it's tough to believe anything these days. So you got to go with your gut. And I should have told people that on the air. Go with your gut. If you don't think you should go, don't go, because you know what? You're going to have a terrible time if you go. I
convinced Lisa not to go to the RSA conference, but we still had to do this party. And of course, everybody at the party had been to the conference, so I don't know if we gained anything by not. I don't know. I feel like take it. Be safe. Why take a chance?
United just canceled a lot of flights to Asia through April 30th.
I think that's closing the barn door after the horses escaped. It's not restricted to Asia anymore.
It's not. I mean, look at Italy. Italy is a problem.
And here's the thing that's different from 1918. We're all flying all over the place. We're traveling like crazy.
Exactly. Like that back then.
Yeah.
I know. And then I read a report about Hong Kong is now quarantined dogs because they say it could be transmitted from dogs.
We are just, honestly, I feel like we're just at the beginning of the crazy season. It's going to get crazy. That's my opinion.
It seems like it gets crazy every year, but it always seems like it's getting crazier and crazier. And this,
well, as Bill Gates said, we've all epidemiologists have been waiting for the 100-year virus. They know it's going to hit, and as he said, this could be the one.
Yeah, did you read it? Did you read his article?
Yeah.
I tweeted it. He says he doesn't know if this is the one, but
could be.
But you need to take the precautions that it could be.
Of course. And
I agree with that. It's always better to side with caution. That's why I could never understand how climate change is actually a political thing. I never could understand that because
why not?
Why not at least side with caution? Because
in both cases, it's a big economic disruption. And no one wants to do it because after swine flu, everybody's saying, well, we shouldn't, let's not go crazy. Let's not go crazy.
These should not be politicized.
I agree. Politicized.
Say the word.
Politicized.
Anyway, I think...
stay healthy, stay home.
I'm staying home for a bit. And I think it's a wise idea.
Yeah.
Plus, I live in California. It was 83 degrees yesterday in LA.
I know, it's beautiful.
68 today, but
we're going downtown tonight. Going to eat
downtown SF.
No, downtown Petaluma. It's a little safer.
Okay. I think we're going downtown LA. I was like, you better call me up.
No, if we were, I would call you up. No, we're going to
enjoy
San Francisco. All right, be well. Stay healthy. I want to talk to you next week.
I hope so.
See you, John. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, who has of late become a kind of a world health guru because his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is pumping millions of dollars into world health, things like childhood vaccines and eradicating diseases, writes a opinion piece published yesterday in the Journal of American Medicine's the New England Journal of Medicine, NEJM, in which he says, in the past week, COVID-19 has started behaving a lot like the once-in-a-century pathogen we've been worried about. I hope it's not that bad, but we should assume it will be until we know otherwise. Now, when he says we, I think he's talking about public health officials. He's not talking about you and me. He's not talking about, but it's something to be aware of. And I think if you're making travel plans, if they aren't absolutely necessary, I don't know. If you plan a vacation next week, I don't know what to say, right? It's your decision. But I think I might want to stay home. I don't know. What do you think? 8888 Ask Leo. It is a technology story, isn't it? It's a health story, it's a technology story, it's a politics story. And I think we've all watched way too many episodes of The Walking Dead and other zombie apocalypse literature too. That may have also given us a little bit of a scare. Maybe we're overreacting. Elliot on the line from Yorba Linda, California. Hi, Elliot. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, hi, Leo.
Hey.
Hoping you can help me out here. It's really confusing. I'm in the market to buy a new PC.
Oh, yeah.
And
it is confusing.
Yes. Intel Core i7, Intel Core i5.
Let's back it up a little bit and talk about what you want this PC for.
Okay, well, I use it for Word, watching movies, surfing the internet, no gaming.
That's good. That means you don't need a what we call a discrete graphics processor, an NVIDIA or Radeon processor. You can use the very good these days built-in Intel graphics with the Intel chip.
Okay.
Word, of course, means, well, I mean, everything you said could be Mac or PC. It sounds like you're leaning towards Windows, though.
Right. I've used Windows my own life. Most of my documents I store on USB drives. I don't store it in the computer. I do that for security purposes.
Well, none of that would change with a Mac. You can open all those documents with a Mac. The reason I have to say, Microsoft has totally bollocksed up Windows, and I'm very unhappy. For instance, they pushed out an update, a Windows update, just last week that deleted some, not all, but deleted some people's data, completely deleted their user account and all its associated data. That is an unacceptable thing. No operating system ever should do that. And when you use Windows 10, in most cases, you're required to install those updates. There's no option to never install them. You can defer it, but you're required to install those updates. So that, to me, is a mess. Microsoft now admits that they no longer test these updates before they ship them out. Appalling. They used to have a whole team of testers, product testers. They fired them all some years ago. And we're seeing the upshot. We've seen quite a few updates over the last 2 years that have been horrific for the end users. I feel like Microsoft doesn't deserve our trust at this point. They're doing great stuff in other areas. I think they're a good company, but I honestly feel like they don't care about Windows anymore because they see their future is in the cloud. And that's Satya Nadella, their CEO's definite bias. He came from the Azure sphere. They're downplaying Windows, and I think that they've made a mess of Windows. However, I know people love Windows because that's what you've used all your life. I just want to say it. I want to put it out there that it shouldn't be the default choice anymore. Folks, stop the insanity. Macintosh is better, not 100% better, but better, less likely to get viruses and all that. I think there's a very credible operating system out there. It's what I use from now on. I mentioned I just bought a Dell, but I didn't buy a Dell with Windows. I bought a Dell with Linux on it because I don't want to use Windows. And I think there are other good choices for people who don't have your needs. For instance, if you didn't have to use Microsoft Office, you just wanted to watch Netflix and do some web browsing and email, a Chromebook would be a very good choice. Much more secure. Much more secure. However, I'm going to honor your desire for Windows. I understand that. It's what you know. It's what you're familiar with. And it's not for me to tell you. It's for you to discover what a snake pit Windows has become.
Well, but wait. That's why I called you for advice. And I certainly am open to switching to...
Everything you described you could do on a Mac and would probably do it better. Now, Macs are more expensive generally because the hardware is better. Windows machines, you can get a good choice of prices from $400, actually down below $400, up to $4,000, depending on the hardware. But Macintoshes, you're pretty, it starts at $1,200, I think, and it's up from there. So if price is an issue, I understand. Windows is often the best choice. There's certainly more variety in the Windows hardware ecosystem. For what you just described, I would perhaps look at a Lenovo 2-in-1. The 2-in-1s are nice because the hinge bends all the way around. This is something Apples don't do. So that you can tent the laptop with the screen facing you. Great for movie viewing. It becomes like a little movie tablet.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like that. Lenovo makes a laptop called the ThinkPad Yoga that does that is superb. Excellent screens, OLED screens. Again, better screens than Apple offers. So in many respects, the choices available to you in Windows hardware makes it a better choice than Apple. Honestly, if you didn't have to do Word documents, if you didn't have a lot of legacy Windows stuff, a Chromebook might be a better choice. But let's get you a nice Windows laptop. I just recommend care and caution using a Windows laptop.
You can use Microsoft Word on the Apple.
Yeah, and Microsoft's, honestly, again, as part of their kind of stepping back from Windows, used to be that was their profit margin, was all Windows and Office, have started making their stuff widely available. They've always made Microsoft Office available on the Mac. Now it's also available on the iPad, Android. They're going to make their software tools much more available across the board. Satya Nadella has said, we want you to be able to use our stuff anywhere you are. On any platform. We want to go to our customers instead of making our customers come to us. So that is something that is changing at Microsoft. But honestly, there's some very nice Windows laptops. I just bought a Dell. Let's get into the nitty-gritty because you were worried about the processors. Intel processors have a good competitor with AMD. Often the AMD costs less with equivalent performance. I wouldn't stay away from AMD. There's one little thing. Most AMD laptops don't have Thunderbolt, because AMD processors don't natively support it. So that's something you might want to go with Intel for. Intel makes their processors in 3 levels, i3, i5, i7. I would recommend for most people an i5. The i7 doesn't have a whole lot of benefit over an i5. It does multi-threading, has a little bit bigger L2 cache. It's not much faster. i5 will give you better battery life. It will give you more than adequate performance for the things you just described. Big hard drive is nice. Nice screen is nice because those are the things you're going to use a lot. The nice keyboard. I do like Lenovo's for that reason, but Dell makes, I just bought a Dell XPS. Those are very nice as well. I would say your 3 manufacturers are Dell, HP, and Lenovo. Those are the top 3, and all 3 of them are very good.
And above that, though, you would say the Apple is, if I'm willing to go to that level of cost.
Hang on, because I got to take a break, but I'll talk a little bit off the air with you. It's really a personal choice. I don't want to throw you a curve and have you go use a Mac and go, oh man, what did Leo get me to do? I don't like this at all, because it will be very different, right?
Okay.
So I would just say Windows is fine as long as you pay attention to security. That doesn't mean install an antivirus. It means be very careful about what links you click, what files you download. Do not send email attachments. Do not open email attachments, those kinds of things. There are ransomware examples in the Mac world, but they're very few and far between. It's endemic on the Windows world. It's everywhere, and it's a real problem in the Windows world. So that's, but again, if you're careful, I've never had a virus on Windows. I've used it for 20 years. In fact, the only virus I ever got was on a Mac, but that was about 30 years ago, but I haven't gotten one since. So you can it's possible to use Windows safely. This thing about Microsoft's updates really worries me because it feels like quality control has really taken a dive. But you can kind of save yourself from that by not installing the updates immediately, but waiting to see if there are howls of pain, and then installing if there aren't any. As long as you keep it updated, you're careful about what you open, Windows is fine. And honestly, it's somewhat of a issue is somewhat of a personal choice too. So I don't want to steer you well away. What is battery life? Are you looking at a laptop or a desktop?
Well, I use the PC as a desktop. I don't take it anywhere hardly ever.
But you do want it so you could if you wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, so that's fine. That means battery life isn't absolutely critical, right?
Right.
Now, if keyboards are what matters to you, Lenovo's ThinkPads have the best keyboards. They're also built super tough. So they're the ones, but they're also not super pretty. They look like they're super tough. They're black business type machines. I happen to be a fan of Lenovo's.
Yeah, that's what I've used for the past 5 years.
Oh, well, then I would stick with it. Lenovo has just announced some very nice new. I would stay with the ThinkPads. They make some less expensive ones, but the ThinkPads are the best. Okay. And they also are least likely to have additional junkware on them and things like that. And they just announced a whole new line of ThinkPads. In fact, I don't even yet know the numbering system and all of that, but if you go to Lenovo.com, you'll see them. And I think they're all excellent. I would get an i5. I would get, you're going to get an SSD, and nobody puts spinning drives in laptops anymore, thank goodness. I would say 512 gigs is enough for most people. But if you have a lot of stuff to store, you can go up even higher. That'll add to the cost. If you, how's your eyesight?
Oh, it's good.
Okay. So they have some beautiful screens. They have OLED screens. They have super high-res 4K screens. I generally get just the full HD, FHD screens because I find they're adequate quality and the battery life is better. The fewer dots you're pushing, the less battery life is used.
Okay.
So that's up to you, but they have a variety of them. The only negative on Lenovo's is you can't really see all of the models. There are some Lenovo's at various stores, but generally it's mail order. And so you kind of have to take it on faith. Their X1 Carbon is thin, light, and very, very nice. But I think you might like a Yoga. I had a Yoga. My daughter has it now for college, but I loved their Yoga, the ThinkPad Yoga. And that 2-in-1 feature is really quite nice for if you're going to watch movies, because then you just tent it, and it's like a very nice screen. So I'm a ThinkPad fan. I think that's probably a good way for you to go.
What? Just one last question.
Sure.
What's the reason to get a touchscreen?
Well, Windows supports it. Honestly, I would not get a touchscreen. It costs a lot more, unless you know you're going to use the touch or a pen. I don't think you need it. Nowadays, most laptops, frankly, are touch screens. But Lenovo does, true to their business heritage, still sell quite a few of their laptops. You can get a non-touch screen, and that'll save you money.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I don't really use it. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What you want is the brightest screen, and they measure that in nits. Typically, many screens are 200 to 300 nits. If you can get up to 500 nits or more, you're going to have a brighter screen, and that often carries with it a higher quality.
Got it.
Yeah, that's something to be aware of. I would only get a screen that's 1080 from top to bottom, 1080 lines top to bottom. That's full HD. They still sell some screens with lower resolution. I would not recommend those.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking at, let's see, the X1 Yoga. That, I think, has the one I had a OLED screen, which for watching movies is stunning. Yeah, all of those, you don't need the touch screen. I think you'd save yourself some money, unless you know, but I'm looking and it looks like they all have touch screens, unfortunately. Oh, and I would get a minimum 8 gigs of RAM, but I would go for 16 gigs if you can afford it.
Okay.
That'll give you a little bit better performance.
Got it.
I think it's fine to go with Windows. They're making me mad. I just wish they would get their quality control improved. I don't understand it. Just don't understand.
Well, it has to impact their business. And
right.
If it does,
they don't care anymore.
They don't care, right.
And I suppose I should mention Microsoft's own Surface Books. I don't like these. They're good for watching movies. They have a detachable keyboard that, because it's detachable, in my opinion, is not as good as like a Lenovo keyboard, but it may not bother you. Those you could go and look at in a store. They're tablets with a detachable keyboard. Those are the Surface Pros. They make very nice screens, and they're all touch.
Okay.
I don't want to throw you a curve there, though. To me, if you've used Lenovo, go with Lenovo ThinkPad. And take a look at their X1 Yoga. That is a superb laptop.
Got it.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, and all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. We have a great website, techguylabs.com. That's free, open to all. That's where you Windows users can go and yell at Leo, because it does no good to yell at the radio. Maybe makes you feel a little better. techguylabs.com. We use Windows at work. We use our editors for the video editing, use Windows. Our business office, of course, uses Windows. And I think that's one of the issues for Windows is it's really designed to be used in with an IT department, with support, with protection. It's not. I don't think Windows for home is a good idea. I really don't, unless you want to be the IT department. Maybe in a nutshell, that's the way. I used to say Windows for work, Mac for home. Nowadays, I have to kind of extend that. If you want real security and simplicity, a Chromebook based on Google's Chrome OS or an iPad based on Apple's iOS is also a very good choice. But they're more limited. If you need the real issue is a full-service, general-purpose computing device. They're designed to do anything you want, including run all the viruses you could possibly find. That's the nature of a full general-purpose device. It's powerful. And for years, that's the only choice you had. If you wanted to use a computer, you had to use one with a general-purpose operating system on that. Fortunately, that's not the case anymore. Unfortunately, we're all kind of in that default, well, it's got to be Windows or Mac mode. But most people don't need a general-purpose operating system. With great power comes great responsibility. If you have a general-purpose operating system, then it behooves you to protect yourself, to learn how to keep yourself secure. You become your IT department. And that's on Mac, too. That's also a general. Anything that's designed to run anything is going to be at risk. Apple's trying to respond to this a little bit by locking down the Mac more and more. Unless you have some secret skills, which if you take the time, you can learn. Starting this summer, Macs won't run software at all that isn't notarized by Apple. The developer has to arrange a certificate with Apple and has to submit their application for notarization by Apple, and that will protect you because rogue programs are not going to do that. That's a good move, I think. The problem is that makes that less of a general-purpose computer, doesn't it? The good news is if you know the command line command to unlock your Mac, you can still do that. And I hope that that'll always be the case because there are those of us who want general-purpose operating systems. We're writing our own software. We want to be able to run programs from a variety of sources, that kind of thing. But increasingly, Mac OS is becoming like iOS. On iOS, on an iPhone or an iPad, you can only run software Apple approves. It has to be in the Apple Store, and you can only use it from the Apple Store. Apple's slowly moving Mac OS in that direction, and, well, if you've been listening to this conversation, you know why. It locks it down. Microsoft can never do that. They don't want to do that. They kind of do, actually. In fact, they've announced a new version of they announced a version last year of Windows called Windows S that would only run apps from the App Store. Nobody wanted it. Now they're working on something new called Windows X that will, I think, at least attempt to be more secure by locking the operating system down more, restricting what you can do. But for most people, that trade-off is more security with less flexibility, and I think most people will be happy with that. Meanwhile, for those who just, want to be safe, simple, get things done, iPad or Chrome OS are very, very good choices. And for most people, that's enough. Increasingly, as we move towards a cloud-centered universe, that's going to be the case, I think. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number, line 2. Jay in Lompoc, California. Hi, Jay.
Oh, hi, Leo. That's Lompoc.
Lompoc. I know, I always say it wrong. Lompoc.
The W.C. Fields pronounces it Lompoc.
Well, after all, I feel a certain kinship to W.C. Fields.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to see the bank dick, that
does he mention Lompoc? That's probably where I got the pronunciation. I love the bank dick.
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
You kind of stole my thunder. I got that update, and it...
Did that happen to you?
It seriously messed up my Windows 10, which was originally a Windows 7 machine. And I've got another computer in my studio that is a Windows 8 originally and was upgraded to Windows 10. Both machines operate a little differently, but it ruined some of my programs, and I went back to my backups and tried to reinstall the program and then put the backup in there, but it's evidently treating these programs differently in the way they operate.
Are they older programs, like pretty old?
Well, let's see. One is DVD Fab, and
I like that.
I had to reinstall that, but the way that it saves files now is different. Let's see, what else did I have in here?
So Microsoft, on the one hand, I mean, Microsoft is kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. They've always had this tradition of supporting old stuff, like not changing things, because in business you have lots of old software you can't get rid of. You have to use it. So Microsoft's really, they call it legacy software. Microsoft's really done a good job of preserving legacy compatibility, but that comes at a price. It makes Windows much more complicated. There are lines of code in Microsoft Windows that are specific to one program to make sure it continues to run. And there's lots of those in Windows. You know, that if you're running DVD Fab, okay, we'll do then they put this in the Windows operating system. Everybody gets it. There's also that's a problem. There's also another problem with supporting legacy, which is you often can't move forward, particularly in security. So Apple, which is has a little bit different relationship with old software. For instance, in its newest operating system, Catalina, said, hey, 32-bit programs won't run anymore. Bye-bye. Which is annoying a lot of people. It's keeping a lot of people from upgrading. They say, well, I can't. There is no 64-bit version of this Peachtree accounting. I can't use it anymore. So
the one that really disturbed me was Flight Simulator. The last good build on that was 2004.
Right.
I have to keep this old XP machine running because it don't run on anything else.
Microsoft has re-released their Flight Simulator. You know, there's a new 2020 version.
Yeah, but don't you have to have good internet because it's like
yeah, you probably do.
I can't. I just got DSL here.
It's probably cloud-based. Yeah. So this is the problem, and I feel for Microsoft, but I understand why it's a problem. Is that there are a lot of people like you that don't want to, move forward in time, that want to keep using Windows, and Microsoft wants to support you, but at the same time they want to move forward, particularly when it comes to security. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place, and it's not unusual for Microsoft to break something with an update. Now, the worst thing to do would be delete people's data, and that's the bug that happened last week with one of their hot fixes, and that's unacceptable. But in your case, maybe they warned the developer. They said, "Look, we're not going to. It's old. We can't support it anymore." Or, as in the case of their own flight simulator, they said, "Well, we're just not going to work. It's not going to work on Windows 8."
Now, would it have helped if I had a restore point? Because I uninstalled the.
This is another problem. People rely on Microsoft Windows restore points. First thing, by the way, malware does is modify the restore point. So I think counting on a restore point to get you back in time, I wouldn't count on it. Sometimes it does work. And when it does work, that's great. Yeah, or you can't find it. Yeah.
Yeah, it says you don't have a restore point.
Well, there you go. That's why I wouldn't rely on it. It's an unreliable system, alas.
Yay.
You have to turn them on in Windows 10, otherwise it won't make any restore points. So that that's one issue. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to help people with Windows 10 because I feel such a gut level reaction to it. It just makes me so mad that Microsoft does such a poor job. But on the other hand, I kind of understand how hard it is for them because they're supporting a history of 30 years. And it's hard. It's hard to do that and still be modern. I just don't know what the answer is for you. I would suggest going to the websites for any programs that don't work, like DVD Fab, going to the website, checking compatibility, checking if there's a newer version. And if there is, then maybe you'll be okay. Because that's sometimes what happens is with advances in the operating system, older versions of programs get broken. So check if DVD... I don't even know if DVD Fab is in active development. Where you get in trouble is when a program is no longer in active development. Like, man, what was the accounting software? It was a very I don't know if it's Peachtree. There's a very popular accounting program for Windows that was it Macintosh? It was Macintosh. They said, well, we're just not going to support the new version because I think it was because. They said, well, Catalina, the newest version, is requiring us to go to 64-bit, and we can't. We've tried. We've been trying for years. Account Edge, I think it was. That was it. The company that develops it, Priority Software, says we can't make Account Edge work with the new Mac OS. We've been trying for years. We've never been able to figure it out. I don't know why that's so hard, but I guess they can't. So, wow. But that happens. That happens. Myself, Leo Laporte. I got a record collection and a mirror. And I got Lady Laura, our fabulous musical director. So I'm not really dancing with myself. 8888 asks Leo, thanks to you. Thanks to your calls. Bill in Seattle, Washington. Hello, Bill. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. I think I've changed what I was going to ask you about while I was on hold here.
You heard our conversation, and now you have a new idea.
Well, I was going to ask you about getting some files that I've taken with my Google Pixel phone.
Yeah.
To my Mac. I was having some trouble getting large files backed up using Google Photos because it wants to down-res them.
Does it down-res the video, the movies too?
Yes.
Now, it used to be with the Pixel that you would get unlimited original quality storage.
Right.
You got it for a year, but I think it's gone now. And the latest, the Pixel 4, they didn't offer it.
Yep.
How annoying is that?
It is. Well, what I've decided I want to ask you about is a project I'm about to take on. My family has a collection of 35-millimeter slides that my dad took over his lifetime.
Oh, nice.
Now, 30,000 slides.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay, so job one is to cull those, because whether you're doing it yourself or you're sending it out, 30,000 is untenable. Do you want every one of them?
That's the hard thing is to go through them and decide whether.
I know it is, isn't it? So we had about 10 carousels. Remember the old Kodak carousels? My mom had those in her closet, and we kept fighting over it. Like, Mom, I want to have a slideshow, because my whole family, we always took slides, and we'd have slideshows every 6 months or whatever. We'd break out the slide projector and the screen and have a slideshow. I always liked that. But it isn't a practical, it's not a practical medium, is it? So my sister took all the carousels in to a service bureau. They cleaned them up, they scanned them, and they put them on a DVD. And then the nice thing about that is everybody has a copy now. In fact, I stored my copy on the cloud so everybody can access it, so they don't even have to have the DVD. They could just get the photos from the cloud and get prints if they want. The reason we use a service bureau is you need special hardware to scan slides. A normal scanner bounces light up against a picture, and then off the picture into a camera. But with a slide, you do that, you're not going to get anything. You have to pass light through the slide. So the light has to be on top of the scanner and the camera below it. There are scanners that can do that. Epson makes one that is designed for that. In fact, they even have, I have that one, and it had a little caddy, and you could put 6 slides in it, scan them. But that's 6 slides. That means you're going to have to do this 5,000 times, and it's going to take a minute or two for each time. You do the math.
What I'm about to pull the trigger on here is retrofitted Kodak carousel projector.
Oh.
From slidesnappro.com.
So this is a good way to do it. So it's going to project it, and you're going to take a picture of it.
With my Sony.
Much better, much faster way to do it. I don't know if quality's better, but it'll be fine. That's a much faster. It's the only tenable way to do 30,000 photos. How many carousels is that? It's like 30, 40.
Oh, at least.
60.
Yeah. And there's boxes that aren't even in carousels.
Yeah, I think that's, if you're going to do it yourself, that's the only reasonable way to do it. And honestly, it would be prohibitively expensive to send it to a service bureau. So, yeah, I think that's a good solution. Project it, shoot the screen. The drawback is, and it's really kind of dependent on the screen. Does this device come with a screen? Hello?
No.
So it just projects it, and then it's up to you to set up your camera and point it at the screen.
It's a macro lens aimed right into the projector.
Oh, perfect. So there's no screen. All right, well, that's good. You're eliminating one area where it could be lower quality. I think that sounds fine. What's the name of it?
SlideSnap Pro.
SlideSnap Pro. I think that's a great idea. And a whole lot faster. That means you can take a picture a second.
Sure.
Oh, it's $3,495.
Yeah.
Oh, it should be.
I can make a business out of this after I'm done.
You can start your own service. This actually looks like a very good way to do this. So does it come with a carousel, or do you have to have one?
It comes with one, but they will take your old one that's in your closet in trade, so that they
nice.
can build a new one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like and so you of course you provide the camera, so all it really is the lens.
Right. That's all I'm going to have to purchase on top of this is the macro lens that's on the Sony camera body.
Yeah, in theory, I haven't used this, so I can't say, but in theory, this is probably short of buying a Nikon slide scanner, which would probably be the best. But essentially, that's what the slide scanner is doing. You're kind of manually doing what a slide scanner does automatically.
But it takes it almost instantaneously,
right?
The slow speed of a scanner, yeah.
Right. Well, these Nikon slide scanners are pretty quick. So but this is doing 2 seconds an image. Says in an 8-hour day you can do half of your slides.
So my ultimate goal here is to take this a step further and to have this collection have metadata attached to it, so that when we're sitting there watching the pictures, it listens to the smart speaker and adds tags to the slide.
Oh, what a great idea! So you can talk.
You could 67 in Colorado on vacation.
Yeah, so you can talk, and it would add the audio to it,
or just add tags to it so that they're sortable or searchable later on. People that watch the slides can add more information, make it more valuable for the people that watch it later on.
That is going to be an interesting project. Do you have some ideas about how to tackle that?
Well, the facial recognition software that's built into Google Photos kind of does that already, but I wish they would give us some hooks for being able to add more information. Say, if I know that this whole box of pictures was taken in 1972,
right,
to go ahead and put that in a folder and have that be a searchable.
There are a lot of programs to do that kind of thing, because photographers do that all the time. Batch tagging and that kind of thing. Lightroom will do it. Fast Raw Viewer will do it. I've used that. What's the program? Well, I wish I could remember the name of it that I've used. There are a number of programs designed specifically to make it fast to add tags. And you can do batch. You can select, which obviously you'd want to do. You select all the pictures from our trip to the beach, select them all and write, 1965 Brighton Beach kind of thing on there. Yeah, that's an easy thing to do because that's basically any photo management program will do that. I've used, what is the name of it? Photo Mechanic. That's the one I've used for this. I would look at that because it's designed to give you on screen. It's an image browsing program that allows you to do mass tagging, basically. And you could try it free for 30 days. Photo Mechanic. I've used that. I've had good results with it. Got to run. That's the shortest version of Love Shack I ever heard. The 30-second version. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We call it the Leo Shack here. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. One of the things our last caller was interested in doing, Bill wanted to, he has 30,000 slides he wanted to scan. He's found a product I have not tried, but looks really good, not cheap. The Slide Scanner at slidesnappro.com, which will take, adapt a Kodak carousel to a special projecting thing that'll project into a macro lens. You can attach your camera and macro lens to it, and then they say you can do 14,400 slides in an 8-hour day. If you do nothing else. So it wouldn't take him too long to get through those 30,000 slides. That's the only practicable way to get through 30,000 slides. But then he said, well, I want to, and he said this off the air, so I'm repeating it now so you get the benefit of it. I want to tag these. And I want to do mass tagging in some cases. Some cases I want to say that's mom and dad in front of the house in 1922. But in some cases, I want to take a whole batch of pictures. Oh, that's our trip to the beach in 1965, and just tag them all 1965 Brighton Beach. The program I've used, and I recommend, there are a lot of programs that'll do this. This is something that almost all photo library management programs will do. Remember Picasa? That was such a great program. That would have done it. But the one I used lately that's modern and kept up to date and very fast is called Photo Mechanic. And it's really designed to take digital photos and organize them and manage them and tag them. I think it's a very good program. A lot of pros use it. There is a 30-day trial. It comes from a company called Camera Bits. And it's not free and it's not cheap, but it's not super expensive either. I think my memory is around $100. I'll have to check. But I found that to be a very good power tool for managing a lot of pictures. Mac or Windows, Photo Mechanic from camerabits.com. So we'll put that in the show notes. Let me just check what the price is here on the website because I want you to be prepared if it's very expensive. $139. Well, I think well worth it, especially since you're spending $3,000 on the Slide Snap scanner. They may come. I wouldn't be surprised if they came with some software that'll do that because clearly if you're scanning thousands of slides, you need some sort of management tool. They may even well come with a version of Photo Mechanic. Wouldn't be surprised. It's a great project. We're all facing this these days, right? Generally, I just say it's so much work unless you're retired and have lots of time on your hands. That's one to send to a service bureau, let them do all the work. But with $30,000, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. It's going to cost you maybe $10,000 to do that. That's a lot. Be cheaper to buy a thing and faster to buy a thing like this Slide Scanner. I am not familiar with it, Bill. Thank you for the sharing that information. As for his first question, which we did kind of gave short shrift to, how do I get full quality 4K videos off my phone? He has a Pixel, and he could take the pictures, but he can't get, Google Photos won't store them at its full quality. I think that's a case of getting another service and using their app. I don't know if Flickr will upload 4K. I think they will. Flickr has an app I use SmugMug. I know they'll take 4K, and you have to buy a SmugMug account, but the app is free. You may find there are photo services like Snapfish or Shutterfly. I wonder if you can do video at Shutterfly. I like Shutterfly. And they're going to make their money on the prints. So they have a free storage. It might be worth looking into it. They may not do video because you can't really print a video, can you? But that's one way maybe to do it for free. 8888 ask Leo. Dick DeBartolo, the Gizwiz, coming up. Meanwhile, let's say hello to Timmy in Oak Hills, California. Hi, Timmy.
Hey, Leo. Thanks as always. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. Took your advice and got an iDrive account. I'm going to set it up on Monday.
Good.
Our sponsor. Right now I have your yeah, great. And right now I have your typical USB external drives that are both extra storage and also backing up my computer itself. My computer itself is about 1 terabyte with the two SSD drives. But my question is, up until now, I've been using a free program that's really cool. It's called File Synchronizer. I think it's by Latshaw Systems. So, for instance, if I have my music files on my laptop or pictures or documents, and I want to back them up to my external USB, I just run the program, and it does that type of sync, not a device-to-device sync. But it'll delete the ones that have been deleted and put the new ones on there so the folders become identical on both.
I do the very similar thing, not with that program, but I think that's a very good kind of backup. I like that kind of backup because you can look at the backup and see if it's all there. You can even open files to make sure it worked. Sometimes backup programs put it in one big blob, and you don't know what's in there. And
yeah, you can count files and file size and all that.
Yeah, because you're basically duplicating the folder. And a smart sync will make sure it doesn't make extra copies. And you can choose whether to delete deletions. If you delete the original, do you delete the backup? I suggest not, but you can choose that. So that's nice too.
Right. Yeah, go to the recycle bin or whatever.
Yep.
My question is, how would I use that type of system with iDrive? In other words,
no, you don't.
Is it possible to do anything like that, or do I have anytime I make say a large music folder change, like
in effect, that's what iDrive's doing. So the iDrive software, when you change a file or add a file to that photo folder, it's not backing up the whole folder every time. It's only backing up changes. It is a synchronizer. Yeah. Otherwise, it would use too much of your bandwidth. So all cloud backup is essentially the same, where it will have to do an initial seeding where it backs up everything because it doesn't have anything yet. In fact, there's some companies, Wasabi does this, where they'll actually send you a hard drive. You put everything on it, and that's the fastest way to seed it. iDrive doesn't do that, but they do have they have a special high-speed seeding initially. But you can count on, depending on the amount of data, a week or two or sometimes months before it's all fully backed up. But then after that, it only backs up the changes. So that's very quick.
So it'll back by changes. I mean, file deletions and or additions?
No. And you don't want with a backup, you do not want deletions to propagate. Because one of the reasons you have a backup is in case you accidentally throw something out.
Okay. So what would I do then? Like, let's say it goes to, let's just call it a general music folder, and it detects a bunch of changes tonight, but it keeps the ones.
It
adds my
old
additions.
ones. Yeah.
I just wait for a week and then I delete the previous version when I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
Is that how
Although remember, and I always have to tell people this, it's not a backup if there's only one copy, even if it's on iDrive, even if it's on a hard drive labeled backup. You got to have at least 2 copies if it's backed up. Ideally, you want 3. And so be very careful about deleting originals. A lot of times people say, it's all backed up, I'm going to delete the originals. Well, now it's all resting on iDrive shoulders or that external drive shoulders. If you've got an external drive locally and you've got a cloud backup, that's 2. That's pretty good. 3's better because sometimes both things fail weirdly. So it depends how valuable this stuff is. Music, who cares? But
well, it's my personal music though.
Well, stuff you make. If it's that's where you really want to be careful. It's only stuff that you only have access to. You don't want to mess with that, obviously.
Well, how I have it set up is my 2 terabyte external drive that I'm going to sync with iDrive. That is also backed up at the house by 2 additional.
Perfect. So you have 3 copies. You have 4 copies. That's good. 3 copies, 2 different places, 1 in the cloud. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Love to hear percussion. And I love to hear Dick DeBartolo, Mad's maddest writer, and the Gizmo Wizard, or Gizwiz as we know him. He joins us every week from his lair at Disneyland, where he is collecting all sorts of weird gizmos and gadgets to show off some of the latest. Hi, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing, pal?
I am great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good.
Now, you're in a big city surrounded by millions of people coughing, sneezing, wiping their noses.
And that's on a good day.
Spitting on the sidewalk. Are you going to stay inside now? What are you going to do?
No, so far I have not made any planned changes.
You obsessively wash your hands anyway.
Not obsessively, but I do wash them. What's today? Saturday? I don't wash them today. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So tomorrow I will.
Would you go on the subway?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah, you would not?
No.
Oh, my God.
Because how do you, when you ride the subway, how do you keep from falling over? You grab something.
No, I have a condom on my head.
You grab the strap or you grab the bar, and, then you've got schmutz on your hand, and then maybe a minute or two later, you go, oh, my eye itches. You just go, oh, now you got it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Now I'm glad Mad closed.
Well, that was a breeding ground of something.
Otherwise, I'd have to go down there.
Yeah. Now stay home. This is a good time to stay home.
Okay.
So, what is it for us that you have today?
Okay. Well, I did not pay attention to what you just said because I went for several days to Toy Fair.
What?
At the Javits Center. Toy Fair's a lot of fun and hard to resist. And I found 2 gadgets that I thought were a lot of fun. One of them is great for your backyard, Leo. The company is called Big Mouth, and they make what they called humongous sprinklers.
Oh, I like that.
And
what is a humongous sprinkler?
Well, it's the one that I saw at the Javits Center I thought was great was the 9-foot giraffe sprinkler.
Oh, so it's a inflatable thing.
An inflatable thing that you hook a hose up to. At first, I saw a 6-foot fire hydrant. And I said, what do you need a 6-foot fire hydrant?
No.
and the guy said, well, we also have a 5-foot dog. So
I like this idea because kids love to play in the sprinkler.
Yes. So the hydrant not only shoots water out the sides, but it has a spinner on the top.
That's what you need. You want to spray around as much water as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's a snake.
Oh, look at that.
The guy told me from 2 years ago that the unicorn was a monster seller and is still on
for little
Amazon.
girls' birthday parties. Yeah.
And they're reasonable. They're $50 to $60. The unicorn I saw on Amazon today is like $49.
Now, I guess he didn't give you a chance to dance around in the water at the Javits Center.
No. I think they would have frowned upon that.
Yes. So you don't know. I mean, how does it come out? Do you have to have a lot of water pressure?
Well, you should have decent water pressure. The giraffe shoots out the giraffe's mouth. The unicorn comes out the unicorn's horn. But the fire hydrant comes out a lot of places. It comes out each place a hose theoretically would hook up, and it comes out the sprinkler.
I think you'd want enough power to spritz it around, right?
Oh yeah, in New York City, that would be perfect. Yeah. That would be perfect.
Wouldn't that be fun? You need a big backyard too.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I do. Yeah,
and children who are willing to get wet.
Yes, and adults who are willing to get wet.
Yeah.
And then I found something kids would enjoy called the Mega Cyborg Hand.
Ooh.
And this is a kit from Thames and Cosmos that make these great kits. And this one they already had built. It's 200 pieces. But what's great about this is you put your hand in it, teaches kids hydraulics. And then using
that's one of my favorite gospel songs.
Oh, what, the hydraulics?
Put your hand in the hand of the hydraulic hand. No, maybe not. Is it going to crunch your bones?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It grabbed your microphone.
Pick up things.
Oh, that's fun. I could see a kid would love that.
Yes, exactly. And then he said, and if you're a lefty, the thumb unplugs and goes to the other side of the hand.
How thoughtful, because I am a lefty.
Yeah. Oh, okay,
That's
great.
That's very thoughtful of them.
It's coming out, I think he said in early summer, $39.99. So it's. I think kids would like that.
And you have to build it, which is good.
That you have to build.
Yeah, no, I like that because that makes keeps the kid busy.
Yeah, exactly.
And out of the way.
The inflatable things, you just use a hairdryer or a compressor to fill them
You
up.
must have so much fun at Toy Fair. That sounds like a great event.
I really
do. Toys as far as the eye can see?
You know what? ABC, sent a camera person, and at the press room, the woman says, "Now, do you want all the facts and figures of the toy industry?"
Yeah, sure.
And I said, "No." Basically, they're sending another reporter for that. They just say, "Dick, roam through Toy Fair and give us 5 minutes of whatever strikes your fancy."
How fun!
So that's a fun thing to do.
So those are not your usual one-take theater videos that you have on your website. This is
on my
professionally shot.
Exactly. Dennis comes down and we shoot the one take theater stuff.
I love those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ABC, they're a little more serious.
That's two-take theater for you.
Yes, exactly. If necessary.
And when will we see this World News Now segment?
Actually, this is going to run Monday morning on World News Now.
If you watch World News Now, look for our GizWiz, Dick DeBartolo. And if you want to know more about these gadgets, he's got a web page devoted to it. Dick's website is gizwiz.biz, GIZWIZ.biz. And if you click the button that says the GizWiz visits the tech guy, it'll take you to the page. There's links, there's video, there's lots more. So if you want to get these, including Amazon links in most cases, so you can get those. Dick also has a really fun contest, the What the Heck Is It contest. There.
Ending in a few hours.
Oh, right. This is the end of the month. Leap Day. You got one extra day because of Leap Day.
I know. Alfred E. Newman tweeted today, why did they call it Leap Year? I suddenly find out I have one day.
Do you run the Alfred E. Newman account?
Someone very close to Alfred does, but I'm not allowed to reveal the name.
He has kind of a record as Mad's maddest writer for more than 5 decades, and you will find lots of good stuff about Mad Magazine on the website, too, including his memoir, Good Days in Mad, which is a great read. But do play the What the Heck Is It contest. You have until midnight tonight to figure out what this close-up is of a gizmo or gadget. Identify it right, you get in the running for an autographed Mad Magazine. But honestly, there's more Mad Magazines for those who get it wrong, but in a clever, witty fashion. Rules and details at gizwiz.biz. Don't forget Dick's fabulous podcast, The GizWiz Show, at gizwiz.tv, now in its 15th year. That's remarkable.
Wow. It kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a long time.
That a person without a good education can do that?
Don't say that about me. I did my best.
And I thank you.
Grade school wasn't easy.
You got it started. You got the GizWiz show started.
Thank you, Dickie D. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the weather in Disneyland.
I'm staying inside.
Yeah, but whatever you do, don't take the subway. Our time is up. Lady Laura, thank you for the music today. Thank you, Kim Schaffer, for answering the phones. Most of all, thanks to you for being here. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for listening. We do this show out of true love and for money. And if you didn't listen, I'd get neither. So please come back again. We'll do it all over again. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on. and on. And of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.